Hello friends, we are back again for today's class. Today we are going to be discussing partial variation. We've discussed direct variation, we've discussed inverse variation, and if you want to have a background knowledge of variation, I advise you go to our previous videos where we discussed direct variation and get a knowledge of it before we come to the partial variation. Partial variation here, the characteristics of this type of variation is that you are going to have at least two constants, and then the relationship between variable is neither direct nor inverse. That is, a quantity does not completely determine the other quantity. It affects it, but not completely. So most times, if we say that A partly varies as B, or let's say X, it is partly constant and partly varies as Y, you have something like this, where A and B are constants, and then X and Y are the variables that are related. These two remains the same in a particular instance. We are going to understand this better in a question. Unlike in direct variation where one quantity is directly affecting another, and the same in inverse variation where one quantity is inversely affecting the other. In partial variation, it still affects it. One quantity still affects the other quantity, but not completely. So let us look at question that will help us understand this type of a variation very well. So if we look at this question, X is partly constant and partly varies as Y. If X is 45 when Y is 10, and X is 87 when Y is 24. You can see here that it is not like the previous ones, direct and inverse. In direct and inverse variation, you'll be given just one value of X and Y that you are going to use to determine the constant. And then when you determine the constant, you find the equation connecting them, and then you'll be given another value for either X or Y to find the order. But in this case, we have two values of X and two values of Y, because in partial variation, most times it leads us to simultaneous equation. So we are going to see that as we proceed. So they say that X is partly constant. What it means is that we are going to introduce a constant that has no variable. S is partly constant. Let's say A is the constant. And partly varies as Y. Partly varies as Y, that is BY. A and B are the constants now. So X is partly constant and partly varies as Y. This is how we represent it, where A and B are constant and the variables are X and Y. If X is 45, so we have 45 is equal to, when Y is 10, is equal to A plus B times 10, which we can write as 10B. Okay? This is one of the equation. And X is 87, the second one, S is 87, equals A plus, when Y is 24, 24B. So we can see that we have two equations represented here now. So what we are going to do to find the equation connecting them is to find A and B, just like we did in direct and inverse, to find the constant and then substitute in the original equation. But in this case, we cannot find A and B with just one equation. That's why we have two equations to solve simultaneously and get A and B. And when we do that, we will now substitute in this and the A here and B here to get the equation connecting them. You know how we solve simultaneous equation? I am not here to teach simultaneous equation, but let's do that. Let's subtract equation 2 from subtract equation 1 from equation 2, since equation 2 has higher values. 87 minus 45 will give us 42 equals A minus A will be eliminated. 24 minus 10 will give us 14B. Okay? And then we have 42. If that is done, we have 14B is equal to 42. 14B equals 42. So we divide both sides by 14 so that we get B. And when we do that, B is equal to 42 divided by 3 is by 14. 42 divided by 14 is 3. And that is our B. Therefore, we now substitute just like we solve simultaneous equation. We substitute this B in either equation 1 or equation 2 to get A. So if we substitute in equation 1, we will have 45 equals A plus 10 times 3, 10 times B, so 10 times 3. We have 45 equals A plus 30, and then we collect like terms. A plus 30 equals 45, and then your A will be what? 45 minus 30, and that is 15. So A is 15. So if B is 3 and A is 15, we'll now substitute in this equation to get the equation connecting them. So that's what we're going to do. My board is too small, so let's see this. So if we substitute it here, we are going to have x equals A is 15 plus B is 3y. So this is the equation connecting them. Because in equation connecting them, it's simply for you to find a constant and substitute, and these are the two constants A and B. This equation connecting them we are going to use to solve any other question that comes. You see how the partial variation looks like. So they say find x when y is 18. That is the number B question. What we just solved is A. The number B is to find x when y is 18. Just substitute the 18 here. X will be equal to 15 plus 3 times 18, and that will give us what? It will imply that x equals 15 plus 3 times 18 is 54, and then x simply is 69, and we are good to go. Okay, we'll look at this one more question on partial variation. A number P varies directly as Q. Let us follow it. If you look at this question, a number P varies directly as Q. That is, let's say solution P varies directly as Q and partly inversely as Q squared. The same P is partly varied, partial variation A plus B, then inversely as Q squared. This is inverse, but this indicates partial variation. Okay, since it is one equation, this will be changed to a quantity sign. And remember, when we introduce a quantity sign, we introduce a constant. But here we are not going to use K because we have already used A and B here. We use one of it. So we use A, Q here. Okay? Then we are going to put the two equations together because this is just one question, one relationship. So it means that P is directly proportional to Q, but partly varies as the inverse of a Q squared. So this one is this, then this one is this. Put together, we have this as the equation. So this is the equation we're going to use now. When they say give that P is 11, we have 11, P is 11 equals A. When Q is 2, we have 2A. Q is 2 plus B over 2 squared. Remember, Q is 2. So we have 11 equals 2A plus B over 2 squared is 4. This is equation 1. Okay, we can make it linear by multiplying through, since we want to remove this fraction 4 so that it will be it will have no fraction. So we have to multiply through by 4. Multiply 11 by 4, you will have 44 equals, multiply 2 by 4, you have 8A plus multiply B over 4 by 4, the 4 here will cancel that 4, we have B. So this is equation 1. Then we substitute again. Then they said again, P is 25.516 when Q is 5. So we have P still on the same relation as 25.16 equals AQ, and Q is what? 5. So we have 5A plus B over 5 squared. Okay, we have 25.16 equals 5A plus B over 25. Okay, so just like we did in the other one, we multiply through by 25. 25 multiplied 25.16, we have 629 equals 25 multiplied 5, we have 125A plus 25 multiplied B over 25, we have B, because 25 will cancel 25. This is equation 2. So these are the two equations we are going to use. So we bring down equation 1 here to have 44 equals 8A plus B, equation 1. the same thing we did in the other one, we subtract. 629 minus 44 will give us 585 equals 125 minus 8 will give us 117a, and b minus b will be eliminated. So what do? We try to find a by dividing through by 117. So a will be 585 over 117.5, and you can see that if a is 5, what do? We substitute a in either equation 1 or 2 to get b. So when we substitute in equation 1, we have 44 equals 8 times 8a, that is 8 times 5, plus b, and that is 44 equals 8 times 5 is 40 plus b, and it implies that b equals 40 will go and meet 44, and it becomes 44 minus 40. Therefore, b equals 4, and that is our b. So the equation connecting them, before you can calculate, you must have the defined equation connecting them, because I told you that you have to do that even if you are not asked. So the equation connecting them, remember what we have originally was p equals aq plus b over q squared. So the equation connecting them will be this: p equals, what is our a? Our a is 5, so we have 5q plus, and b is what? 4 over q squared. So this is the equation connecting them. Just substitute a and b on the equation you have formed. So the final question becomes, what is p when q is 7? Just substitute q here as 7, so that you have p equals 5 times q, that is 5 times 7, plus 4 all over q is 7 squared. So p becomes what? 5 times 7 is 35, plus 4 over 7 squared is 49. So p is going to be 35 whole number, 4 over 49 as p. And that is how we do that in partial variation. See you in the next class.